So we are officially one day before the eclipse, which is happening in Pisces. And it's such a beautiful eclipse. It really, really is. I think it merits a moment because I know we've been through a lot the past couple of years with Pluto going back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius. It hasn't been very clear in terms of how we're officially going to transition out of this old era and into the new one. And this year, we've just been kind of straddling that line between the old and the new. And this eclipse, while it won't necessarily provide clarity, I think there's a softening in our desire to have control. And we're a little bit more willing to kind of go with the flow. We're a little bit more willing to open our hearts right now. We're a little bit more willing to burn bridges with our past and say, we're done, it's over, we made it, we're ready for the next thing. And there's just kind of this overall feeling that things are changing in a very big way and that we've reached some kind of an end point. Now, one of the things that I talked about ad nauseum in my September tarot readings that I post on YouTube every month was this notion that we could look out at our world, whatever circumstance we're dealing with. We could look at our living situation, our relationship situation. We could look at our money. We could look at our health, like whatever it is we're dealing with. And it's not necessarily indicative of the true reality, if you will. And what I mean by that is vibrationally, we're already 10 steps ahead of this. And we're kind of looking at these empty echoes from the past. So when we look at what we're dealing with, when we look at our problems, we look at our situations that we're not so happy with, it's important for us to remember that this is simply old remnants. Like it's like the ghost of a lot of past decisions. And within the next 8 months or so, as Mars does his little retrograde thing, we are going to be kind of silencing those echoes and introducing and integrating a whole bunch of new things. And whatever was problematic or is currently problematic will likely resolve itself without a lot of effort. And that's the thing with this moon, is there really doesn't have to be a ton of effort involved. The effort, if you will, is going to be more directed toward the release. And it's not really effort at all. That's probably the worst word to use, but it's going to be dedicated toward surrendering, letting go, forgiving. And I am kind of using this notion of burning bridges. And the reason why I'm saying burning bridges is because we also have this fixed star called Sheet at 29 degrees of Pisces. Now, technically the moon is at 25 degrees, so it's a 4-degree difference. However, because the moon moves so quickly, I am going to incorporate it, especially because Neptune is technically conjunct this fixed star Sheet. And Sheet is an extraordinarily destructive and stormy star. And I kind of feel like this burning bridges idea or this burning bridges concept really applies to, really our patterns, what's normal for us, our circumstances. We're really just kind of drawing the line, cutting it off, drawing that boundary and saying we don't accept this anymore and we're going to let it go. And more, we're letting it go by just simply energetically separating ourselves from those things. So even though we may be living in this life, we have these things that are so clear and so obvious to us. They're touchable, tangible, right in front of us, real. We're weirdly going to be feeling separate from those things and being hyper conscious, hyper aware that like this is not a representative of who I am. This is not a representative of where I'm going. It's not representative of who I am becoming. So we are going to be quite detached from what is actually in our moment. And it's it is a beautiful thing. And I think if we're aware of that, if we're aware that just because it's in front of us doesn't really mean anything at all, and that we can wake up tomorrow and everything could be different. We could wake up tomorrow, make completely different decisions, and within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, our entire circumstance could be completely different. And that's the thing about too, not only do we have the moon in Pisces, but we have this sun in Virgo. And the sun in Virgo is always, always so aware of the day to day. It's aware of what do we do today? What do we do this hour? What task? What email? What phone call? What chore? What errand do we need to do to make sure that our lives are better and structured and organized, and so that we are prepared for what comes next? It's all about preparation, right? And we should be preparing. I use this analogy all the time. It's like you have those people who win the lottery, but they don't have any plan in place, and so they lose it all and they end up going bankrupt. Well, if you plan on winning the lottery, the metaphorical lottery, and you're, not prepared, well, then maybe it will come and you might lose it very quickly. But if you prepare for your lottery to come in, you have the right people in place, you have the right systems in place, you have all the right, everything going on, then when that opportunity comes, you'll be able to handle it. You'll be able to manage it. Because really, when our opportunities come, we need to act as guardians and stewards of those opportunities. We can't just take it in a greedy kind of way and say, gimme, 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 right? We have to nurture it. We have to feed it, make sure it's properly taken care of, properly attended to, and all of that. And we need to be prepared to do that. So this moon is both preparatory and seriously release oriented. And the burning of the bridges, there might be external things that we're going to need to burn the bridges with, right? People, places, things, whatever. But more so it's internal. And I think the internal burning of the bridges, saying you're not going to accept certain things from yourself anymore. You're not going to accept certain behaviors. You're not going to accept certain patterns. You're not going to accept certain circumstances. When you say you no longer accept, the external bridges will naturally burn down anyway. So we are in a destructive mode right now, but it's a very loving destruction. It's a very loving, compassionate, and forgiving destruction. It is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful moment. I wish you all nothing but the best. I hope you guys have a good eclipse. I'll talk to you soon.